Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In the previous video, you saw us working on the snowmobile trailer, putting LED lights in it. Somewhere down the road, I want to order some really nice cabinets, some helmet racks, things like that, so we can mount those in. Maybe I'll show that in a video. Plus, just an update on this orange snowmobile. We're still trying to find a driveline, aftermarket preferably, that's a little stronger, handle the power a little bit better. So we're still waiting on parts for that. In the meantime, I have a project that we haven't done in a couple weeks. It's this little mini bike. In the last video with this mini bike, we tore it down, took everything off, handlebars, grips, stripped everything down, and we decided to install the engine, see what kind of problems we come up with, and one of the problems was the sprocket is hitting the frame. The engine's not sitting where it's supposed to. The mounting bracket is over to the left. We need to move it over to the right and start cutting into the frame, see if we can't add parts and pieces to the frame, make the frame a little bit stronger and able to support a little bit more weight. I have an 8-foot piece of round tubing that we can use to fill in spots and make a little bit stronger frame out of this so that the engine will sit where it's supposed to and the bike itself will be a little bit stronger. So let's get started, cut into this thing and see if we can't get this engine to sit where it's supposed to. So what we're gonna do first is I think I'm gonna cut this little section of frame out, this little section of frame right here. I think I'm gonna cut it out. Later on, we can always add supports back and forth just to brace everything up once that's cut out. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the plate that mounts to the bottom of the motor and I'm gonna cut it off, mount it to the bottom of the motor, and see if I can get that to sit where it should sit. So let's get to cutting and see what we can do. Alright, now that we got all these parts cut off, we got the mounting bracket down below cut off, we have this little section of frame cut out. I'm not sure that this is going to work. I think we're going to have to cut more out of this frame, so we might have to support it down through here before we cut it off, because I don't want any of this stuff moving ahead of time. So with that being done, let's set the motor in. Let's mount it up to the mounting bracket and let's see how we have everything lined up, how well it lines up. If we need to change something, we can change it now. Now that I have the motor mounted to the motor and the motor is sitting in place where I think it should go, the sprockets front and back still don't line up, which means the motor has to go to the right a little bit. So what my options are right now is I'm gonna have to take and run a piece of pipe from this point to this point I need to run it probably as low as I can get it so that I can cut this part out and that sprocket will slide in a little bit further. I think that should give us the clearance we need. Then we can start bracing up this bike in certain spots to make sure it's nice and strong. All right, now that we have all the frame cut out, we've got our brace piece in place and welded in solid. Now we can check to see and fit our motor and see if we're going to have sprocket clearance from front to back so we can run our chain. And then after that, we'll do some cleanup on all the welding, probably put in some more bracing where we need it, brace things up where we think it needs to be braced up and beefed up. But now this is what we've ended up with. Instead of having the piece that comes up here and down, we've just gone straight across. Once we put the motor in, which I think the motor is going to sit somewhere in this vicinity right there. And now you can tell if we put a straight edge on this, we're pretty close to being where we need to be. Motor looks like it needs to come out just a little bit, but we have more than enough room to move it in and out. So I'm gonna figure out where the motor bracket needs to be welded. I'll tack it in place, fully weld that, and then we'll move on to bracing and beefing up the frame a little bit. All right, now that we have the back support put on for the seat, we have the motor mount bracket welded in place. I think it's time we start stripping the rest of this down, cleaning up as much weld as we can, maybe sandblast it, prep it to see if we can send it out and get it painted. But first, before we do that, let's put the motor back on, run the chain, and see how close we are to everything lining up. All right, so we have the motor in place, we have the chain in place, and it looks like we've got a pretty good lineup on the chain and motor. So I think the next thing we do is we finish stripping this all down and cleaning up the welds and sending it off to paint. This bike stripped down to just the bare frame. I got a lot of finish grinding to do. I think I'm going to do that off camera. A little repetitive. I've done a lot of that in this video. But I think we're at a point where we're getting this ready for paint. I think we're going to powder coat this, and we're going to try to give a video on powder coating this frame. But for right now, I think this is a good place to stop this video. Be sure to leave a like on this video. It helps us out a bunch. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this video. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.